In the previous video, we laid out our user interface elements. Now let's go ahead and hook those elements up to code so that our app does something. And the first thing we're going to do is add code to respond to the send button. Now the way we're going to do that is we're going to define an onClick attribute of our button object, and we're going to put the name of a function, or method rather, on our main activity that gets called when the button is clicked. So you'll see how this fits together. So I'm going to go ahead and add an onClick handler in my button. And then I'm going to put a piece of text here, which is basically just the name of a function that I'm going to declare, or a method that I'm going to declare. And right now it says that main activity has incorrect signature, and the reason is because I haven't defined this method yet. This is going to be new code that I write. So until I write that code, it's gonna complain at me. And then I'm going to go to the Java for my activity. So up here under Java, you're going to see the main activity for the app, and you're also going to see the application test if I wanted to run some test stuff. But I'm just going to go ahead and open the main activity. So this is the default code I get, and it's got some stuff already. So it's got a method for handling when the app is created, when the activity is created, and creating the options menu, and when you select an option. And it's all stubbed when you start out. And we're going to add our own method here to handle send message. So I'm just going to copy and paste this for now. And I'm going to put it roughly in the order that it's going to get called, which is going to be after the app is created. So I'm going to put it here. And you'll notice when I paste this in, I get view as in red and underlined. And there's an error there, cannot resolve symbol view. Now the reason is that in Java, if you want to refer to a thing, you have to have that thing defined in a separate class file, and it has to be imported into the class that's using it. And this is really easy to fix in Android Studio. All you have to do is hold down the Alt key and press Enter, and it automatically changes the imports. So what that actually did was, if I expand these imports, it actually added this line here, import android.view.view. And this gives me the interface I need for the view class and a view object I'm creating. Really convenient, because trying to keep all of these different imports straight is challenging. So it's nice that that process is automated. Now the actual code itself, this public void means that this can be called externally. It doesn't return any values. The name of the method is going to be send message, and when it gets called, when you click on that send button, it's going to call this send message method, and it's going to pass in the user interface item that was clicked on. So the button itself, which is a view, is going to be passed in to send message, and then I can do something with that view if I want to. I'm not going to need to in this particular application, but it's good to know that it's there. Now what I want to do, so what I want the application to do when I click on the send message is basically it's going to, I'll show you. So I'm going to enter a piece of text here, like hello world. And when I click on the send message, what I want it to do is go to another screen that shows me the message that I typed in the box. So in Android Ease, basically each separate window that you have with user interface elements on it corresponds to an activity. So I'm running this activity now, which is my main activity, and when I click this send button, what I actually want to do is start up a new activity, which is going to display whatever text the user typed in here. So I'm going to need to have two activities, and I want to declare an intent. When I click this button, I want to declare my intent with the operating system to launch another activity, which is going to be whatever displays my message. So that seems a little odd, but you get used to it. Actually, let me go ahead and exit this here. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a new intent. When the user clicks on the button, I'm going to create a new intent. And once again, I have a bunch of stuff that's in red because I haven't imported the intent class. Let's go ahead and fix that. I'm going to hold down Alt and press Enter. And now if I look at my imports, I'm going to see right at the top, android.content.intent has been added. Now this display message activity class, this is going to be the name of the activity that gets launched. My intent is to launch this activity, but I haven't declared the activity yet. Right now I just have a main activity, and so this is going to get fixed when I go ahead and add a display message activity. So we'll see that. And then I'm going to, so this is telling me about resolving my intent. It's explaining what this intent thing is. So basically this is the context that I'm currently in. And then here's the actual code that we want. So we want to add this line here, and I'll explain this line. And Alt Enter to import edit text. So what this does, this find view by ID, here's how I link the resources I've created to the user interface elements. So R is resource, and I'm going to go r.id.edit message. So this is going to find the edit message ID resource, and that corresponds to an activity main. I added Android:ID and then a resource ID /edit under message. So that's where that linkage occurs. I've added an ID to this user interface element, and I refer to it by saying r.id.edit message, and then find me the view user interface element that has that ID. Now, find view by ID can return any kind of user interface element, any kind of view. And since I know that edit text is going to be an edit text user interface element or view, I'm going to use open paren edit text close paren to coerce this value into this type. If I take this out, now I get an error because find view by ID is just returning a view, but what I want is an edit text. So I want to turn this view into an edit text, and that's what that does. Okay, so now I have basically the field, the edit text field that the user typed into, and I want to get the text out of that to find out what the user typed. And that's going to be this line of code here, these two lines. So this string message, I'm declaring a temporary variable called message that is going to that's going to hold my view. I get the text from a view, which is going to be a text object, and I convert it to a string, which is a piece of text, and then that string is stored in this variable. So that's how I look up the text box and get the value of the text box as a string. And then this intent, where I'm going to basically launch a new activity, I'm going to put some extra information on this intent that will be available inside of the activity when it gets launched. So on the second page, I'm going to have all of the information that's stored on this intent available. And what I want to do is add the message to the intent so that it's available on the other side. Basically, this activity is going to launch another activity. I need to communicate between the two activities. I need to send this message along so that the second screen has access to it. The way I do that is to put the message as extra information on the intent, and then I can tag multiple different pairs of values. So I can have an extra message, I could have a number, I could have, however many different pieces of information I wanted to pass from this activity to the next activity. I can have put extras for each of those with different, basically this is going to be like an ID and then a value. So key, value, pair, and then I can have as many key value pairs as I want attached to the same intent, and that information will be available on the other side. Now this is just a global variable that I haven't declared yet. That's why it's red. So let's go ahead and declare that global variable. And I'm going to copy this line here. And go up to the top of my class and paste that in. So this public final static, this is basically JavaScript, this is basically Java notation for declaring something as a constant that's publicly accessible. This needs to be public because public things are visible to the outside world, and I'm going to be starting up a completely different activity that needs to have access to this value. And then final means it's a final static. That basically means that the value is not going to change. It's a string. Here's the name of the string. By convention, constants are declared all uppercase with underscore characters. And then here's the actual value itself. Now, this could be anything I want it to be, but in order to make sure that it's unique, you really want this part here, com.mycompany.myfirstapp, to match my app name, which is com.example.mark.myfirstapp. So I'm going to change that to match. And then the particular property that I'm interested in is going to be this message property. And if I wanted to create another one to pass in a number, for example, I could create an extra under number, which was equal to com.example.mark.myfirstapp.number. I could have a second number, a third number, whatever. So now this is declared, and I've put the message on my intent, so it's available on the other side. And then the last thing that I want to do is start the activity that's mentioned in the intent. So this is what actually launches the activity. So I've created an intent to launch the activity and to pass in some information to it. Then I actually start the activity. That's what causes the new window to pop up. The only thing I have left to do is declare the activity. Well, I have more stuff than that, but let's go ahead and do that. So to create the next activity, I'm going to go to the same folder where my main activity is, and I'm going to right-click on that and create a new activity, blank activity. And the name here has to match display message activity. So this is going to be display message activity. And package name is correct. So hierarchical parent, that's going to be the name of my parent app. Take a look at the example here in the code. So in the tutorial, it says to fill that in with com.mycompany.myfirstapp.myactivity. But in my application, the thing's actually named com.example.mark.myfirstapp.mainActivity. So the hierarchical parent is the thing that you're going to return to when you hit the little back button. This is going to have a back arrow on it, and when you click on there, you want it to return to the first screen, which is com.example.mark.myfirstapp.main activity. Okay, so I think everything else looks good. All right, so now I have a new main activity. And I'm not going to edit anything at this moment. So by default, this is going to show hello world. Let's start running it and see what we have. So I'm going to run it on the Genymotion simulator. All right, so as before, now when I click the send button, it launches the display message activity, which shows hello world by default. And I also have this back button, which returns me to my main activity. So now all we have to do is hook it up to display the message text. And so I've gone ahead and created my activity. I didn't change the title, which I should have. So let's go ahead and fix that. That's actually going to be in the Android manifest. So you'll see when I started out, I just had this main activity, and now I also have a display message activity. So this label here is going to be title activity display message, and the name is going to be, actually go to string, and we'll see there's a title activity display message. So what did it say to put there? So I'm going to say my message here. All right, so now if I run the app, now it says my message at the top, which is a little better than display message activity. All right, so now I want to add the code for my second activity to display the message. So let's go ahead and see what we have. You'll notice there is now a display message activity file under Java. And we're going to keep some of this and add some stuff and then delete some stuff too. So I don't need onCreate options menu because I'm not going to have an options menu here. I'll just use the default is fine. I'm going to leave these other two things there. And that's it for this part. Okay, so this is all the stuff that you would do if you were editing files directly and running from the command line, and I'll make that an optional activity. So you can basically skip create the activity without Android Studio for now, and drop down to receive the intent. So the main activity created an intent and launched the second activity, the display message activity. Now the display message activity has to get the information from the intent and display it on the screen. So the first thing we want to do is get rid of this set content view. So set content view, that's what determines the layout of user interface elements on the activity screen. And instead of using the default layout, I'm going to be setting the content to something else in a second. So I'm getting rid of that line, and I'm going to start by getting the intent. So this is the intent that my activity was launched with, and I'm going to Alt plus Enter to resolve the import. Alt plus Enter. And then hanging off of that intent is going to be the extra data that I added in my main activity. So my activity.extraMessage, so this is the main activity. This is actually wrong because mine is called main activity. So under main activity, there's a constant public defined for extra message. And this is how I make sure that this value in my activity matches this value in the main activity. And then I want to get string extra, so the value that's associated with this key, store that in the message string, and then I'm going to use it in a minute. So what I'm going to do is create a text view, and this will be just a piece of text that gets displayed on the screen. Do Alt+Enter to resolve those imports. So now I have a new user interface element, but it's not actually hooked to anything. I'm going to set the size of the text to 40, which is pretty big. So I set the size of the text, and I also set the text in this user interface element to be message, which was the thing that I passed over from my main activity. And then I'm going to set content view, which is what's showing on the screen, to just be the view that has my text on it. So it's a really simple interface. I could have laid it out the same way as I laid out my activity main by editing the XML file, or as we'll see later on, by using the interface designer. But since this is a really simple interface that just has one piece of text on it, I can create the user interface directly through code and set the content view for the activity to just have that text view on it. So let's go ahead and see if it runs. So I'm going to hello Mark and hit send. Ooh. So it's showing my message, hello Mark. So that's basically all it does. But it works. That's good. And once again, I have it installed here. So if I click it, I can say and so on.